Hello, this is Noreen Crone-Findlay from Crone-Findlay.com and TottyTalksCrafts.com. My website is Crone-Findlay.com, and that's where all my books and designs and patterns and things are. TottyTalksCrafts.com is my blog, and that's where I post all the support material for these video tutorials. Now, as you see, this tutorial is about some design notes for you to think about while you're working on your sumac pouch. So this is the cartoon. You've seen it already. It's on the blog post that talks about setting up the loom. I'm just going to give you a bit of background about how I developed the design for the sumac pouches, and then I'm going to just talk to you about a little bit of direction and how you can evolve. Even though you have this pattern, it's going to be uniquely yours because you're going to use your combination of colors and textures and trims and embellishments that will make it totally yours. And I'm going to just talk to you a bit about what will make it yours. Now, I've posted pictures on my blog of the original inspiration for this design, which was my grandmother's, it's more than 100 years old now, well more, way more. It's a carpet that she always had on the dining room floor of her house. And I grew up with the images of those flowers being really a part of my childhood. So when I was thinking about designing the pouch, I thought, well, why don't I take the flowers from Nanny's rug and kind of stretch them out, lop them off, play with some of the shapes and images from her carpet to make the pouches. So this was the very first design for the first two prototype pouches. So the first two this was the very first one that I wove. And you can see that when I folded it, oops, look at that, the flower doesn't show up very well. So in the second one, I have adjusted it so that the flower is complete on the back and the lower petal isn't folded in half. Of course, guess what I forgot? Duh, you'd think I would remember. Is that when you're weaving with wool, your project needs to have extra length because it's going to pull in and shrink. So these first two pouches are a little bit short for being business card pouches, but they'll work beautifully for holding other things. I might give one to my husband for, I don't know, if he has bits and pieces that he wants to use them for, or I don't know, there are other options. And so I then, as I was weaving, now you can see with this one, it's very round. And I thought, okay, I want to make this easier for the people who are participating in the weave along. And so I went to a more abstract and more geometric. See how the curves have given way to straight lines? The straight lines make it much easier to weave. And it means you can count, there's 24 warp strands, you can count out, it's 4, 4, 4, 4, 8. So it moves across. There are a couple of places where there are an uneven number of warp strands, but mostly it's even and symmetrical. So the next one, you can see I have moved on to the more geometric. And then I also decided with the first two, I used the same yarns that I wove the pouch with to do the embellishment. Then I decided with the next set of pouches to go with the cotton yarn for weaving the pouch and the metallic yarn for doing the chain stitch embellishment. And you can see what happened from one to the next. I started getting more adventurous and adding loops and linear elements with the embellishment. And my daughter-in-law said to me, "Mom, put a clasp on there so it can be hung from the loop on people's blue jeans, or attached to their bag so that it's right there and easy to get to." So that was another innovation with it. And so again, more definition on the back, just by adding more lines. Then one thing led to another, and I decided, oh, but what about stripes? And what about beads? In fact, as I was shooting the finishing video, I had that aha moment right while I was shooting the video, and you'll see that later when the finishing videos come up. And so stripes, why not? You don't have to make your background solid colors. No, indeed. So stripes are good. Yes. So when you're working stripes, well, I'll talk about stripes a bit later. No, why not talk about it now? When you're working your stripes, you will always return to the left hand point here, and then you'll just, instead of starting your next row with black, you just drop the black and pick up the white and work the stripe in white. And so inside the because of course it's lined, inside the pouch are traveling loops of the yarn. The black moves up the white. I didn't bother weaving over them. If this was a carpet or an unlined bag, I most certainly would have woven in the ends up the side. But I knew I was going to be lining it, so I was just lazy and didn't. And it's fine. It's hidden. You can also add embellishments like this is a medallion that works great. It just fits the back of the flower perfectly. And you can add beads of all descriptions. I had a problem, and that is that my daughter and daughter-in-law, both of whom I adore, both loved this pouch. And I didn't want to weave exactly the same pouch twice over. And I thought, why don't I take the same colorway and use it to weave a second pouch with the same colorway, but using wool. This one is woven with cotton from Lion Brand bonbons. That the background is bonbons cotton. The foreground is the bonbon metallic. This pouch is Mirrix, from the Mirrix sumac kit, and it's wool. I think it's a wool mohair blend. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the embroidery is done with, it's called ombre embroidery thread from Crone-Findlay+, bless their hearts. And as is this edging is also from Crone-Findlay+. So you can use the same colorway and end up with two completely different pouches, because the texture is going to be a huge influence, as is the colors will never be exactly the same from one yarn to the other. So if you have a colorway that you just adore, try working it in several different mediums, and try playing around with changing out the embroidery embellishment when you're finished the weaving. It works really well. I just wanted to also, I know I have pointed this out to you in other videos, and if you haven't seen them yet, you certainly will be seeing them. These are just a few of the colorways that I have done. What you do when you're doing your colorways, here we are. Here is the colorway for this pouch. And when you're done, of course, after you've done your embroidery, the pouch looks quite different, but you'll be amazed at how very close your weaving will be to your cartoon. But you can make changes. I decided when I wove to the top that I was kind of running low on the black, so I switched to white up here at the top. Now, one of the really big advantages of working with your colorway with paints or aquarelles or pencil crayons or crayons is that you get to try out colorways before you get to the loom. And here I was having trouble deciding what color was I going to make this little lozenge shape here. And so I tried out 3 different versions of it, and that allowed me to choose the color that I ended up working with, and I really like it. So that's another good reason to work with lots of different colorways. And what you do is you do take your various colors of weft that you have and try sort of designate different pencil crayons or aquarelles or paints as the colors of the weft. And if you want, you can draw in your colors that you're going to be doing your embroidery embellishment with. This really allows you to see what is it that makes your heart sing. And so trying out, you know, do you want to go with something really wild and festive or something more subdued and traditional? So by doing lots of different colorways, it's invaluable. You get to see how a very subtle shift will change everything. You can see here, I have just traded out the brown in this motif becomes the background in this motif, and the lavender as background is the motif. So, excuse me, a subtle change is really very useful to try. Sorry, I'm going to have to edit this because of, oh my goodness, something went down the wrong way there. Another really useful tool, as well as your coloring, is to use graph paper. Now you can see here, I decided I wanted to do a pouch that has black and white checks. And I wanted them, you can see I have numbered them, and I will make a graph up for you to print out, because what I want is I want the edges to be symmetrical, and I want each end to end with the same color. If I had just worked with the 24 strands, either 2 across, 4 across, 3 across, I would have ended up with black at this end and white at this end. So what I did was I played around on the graph paper before I even started coloring. And what I will often do is when I see that a color combination isn't working, I'll take white out and I'll white out over it and just, it's like, that's it, doesn't work, try again. And so I use graph paper and establish what each box is one warp strand. So by coloring them in, I establish what the colorways are going to be. And so graph paper is wonderful. It's just a fabulous tool. So because this is 4 ends to the inch, 4 squares to the inch, pardon me, that means my 3-inch pattern is 12 squares. We have 24 yarn ends, so each square then is 2 yarn ends. And so 10 inches takes us almost to the top of the page. And so the graph paper allows me to work out my pattern in a really very precise and logical way. So I highly recommend that you work with graph paper too. So these are some design tools that are going to help you create an absolutely magical pouch that is completely and totally yours, even though you're starting. Well, okay, the invitation is there to begin with this cartoon, my design, but feel free, if you want to change it right from the get-go, feel free to do that. So happy weaving, my friends, and there is so much more to follow.